He slammed the folder down like it was a verdict. Next quarter, he snapped again. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just smiled. Not because I was calm, not because I agreed, but because in that exact moment, I realized something he didn't. This wasn't the 10th time they'd passed me over. It was the last. I still remember what I was wearing when it happened. A navy blue cardigan with a missing button sleeves, stretched from stress pulling, and a faint scent of burnt coffee. It was a Friday morning, 7:43 a.m., and Seattle rain had already soaked the cuffs. My name is Leona Price. I'm 34. And that was the day my boss told me to do 3 people's jobs or lose mine. I had been at NorthLayer Cloud for 5 years. Started as a junior sysadmin, climbed up to lead DevOps engineer. Not flashy, not loud, but damn reliable. That morning, I was fixing a deployment bug someone else had pushed at midnight. My second coffee of the day was cold. My eyes were dry. My name wasn't on the meeting invite, but I got a message. Come by my office, quick chat. From Elliot, our VP of Infrastructure. I walked in and sat in the same torn chair I'd been using since 2019, the one with the weird stain no one could explain. Elliot didn't even look up at first. He just slid a folder toward me. This quarter, we've had to make some hard choices, he began. His voice was coated in that soft corporate glaze. Budget's tight. Leadership agreed to pause promotions till Q3. He didn't have to say it. I already knew. This was the 10th time. My jaw clenched. Let me guess, I said. Next quarter, right. He looked up surprised, then leaned back like he was preparing for a performance. Look, Leona, you're a valuable asset. You've led the transition to Kubernetes, you rebuilt our deployment pipeline. You even stepped in when Kevin burned out during the Futura launch. But Q1 just isn't the time to promote technical leads. I laughed. Not the polite kind. Not the corporate lobby coffee machine kind. It was the kind that made people uneasy, unstable. My voice was steady, but my hands were trembling. 10 times, Elliot, I said. 10, Elliot frowned. We're not counting Leona, I am. I interrupted. You want to know what's funny? I believed you the first time, the second, even the 5th. But now I'm the joke. He opened his mouth, but I was already standing. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I walked out and passed Kirsten from HR, who gave me the same tight-lipped smile she used for people leaving the company with a cardboard box. Only this time, I wasn't gone yet. I sat down at my desk, stared at the terminal screen, and took a long breath. That was the moment. Not the first rejection, not the worst one, but the last one. The moment something shifted, something cracked. I didn't rage, I didn't scream. I just opened a new private Notion workspace and titled it Exit Map Leona Price. Most people think DevOps is about tools, Jenkins, Docker, Terraform, but it's not, it's about glue. Quiet, invisible glue that keeps everything from catching fire at 2 a.m. And for 5 years, that was me. NorthLayer loved to brand itself as lean, agile, disruptive. What that really meant was, we underpay rock stars and make them feel lucky to be here. I used to feel lucky. Used to take pride in being the person who fixed the system at 3 a.m., who calmed down angry clients, who made broken builds work with spit and chewing gum. But something about that 10th rejection broke the spell. I started seeing things differently, like the fact that Elliot's vision documents were recycled from outdated GitHub gists, or that the shiny new interns were all referred by someone's cousin brother or tennis buddy, or that Brody had been promoted to solutions architect after crashing staging for 3 straight quarters. His claim to fame, he hosted a whiskey tasting for the C-suite. Meanwhile, I had led 3 major infrastructure migrations, built out the CI/CD pipeline from scratch, and designed the auto-scaling architecture for our biggest product launch last year. My name wasn't even in the internal presentation, but I could list by heart the Slack handles of every engineer who pinged me in panic at ungodly hours. I could tell you which parts of the system only ran because I'd patched them undocumented in the dead of night. I wasn't just a cog in the machine, I was the machine. And they never saw me. After the meeting with Elliot, I didn't announce anything. I just kept showing up, kept committing code, kept pushing hotfixes. But at night, I started documenting everything not in Jira, not in Confluence, but in that private workspace. Every workaround I'd built, every undocumented dependency, every secret that made NorthLayer run. I built what I called my shadow handbook. Then I started cataloging my value not in feelings, but in data. Uptime logs, deployment metrics, incident resolutions, who solved what when and how long it would have taken someone else. I cross-referenced this with the org chart, created impact heat maps, did mock simulations for what would break if I vanished. The picture was very clear. Without me, things wouldn't crash immediately, but give it 2 weeks, and the cracks would start showing. And yet no one noticed. No one asked how I was. No one asked why I stopped joining coffee and culture Zooms. Why I no longer replied to Elliot's weekend Slack messages with, "Sure, I got it." I'd stopped giving more than what was written in my contract. I wasn't doing less. I was doing exactly enough. And in the silence that followed, I found something I hadn't felt in years: clarity. See, they kept telling me I wasn't ready, that I needed more client exposure, more leadership, more visibility, and like a fool, I kept jumping through hoops. Got certified in AWS and GCP, shadowed account managers, mentored juniors, took Toastmasters for God's sake. And every time I met a requirement, they shifted the goalposts again. But now I realized they were never planning to promote me. I wasn't the face they wanted on the client deck. I was the fire extinguisher behind the glass break in case of emergency. And they thought I would never leave. So I started planning my exit like I planned our disaster recovery system, with redundancies, grace, and a clean rollback path. I wasn't just leaving. I was going to pull the blueprint from under their feet and walk away before they even realized I had it. Not for revenge, not yet. For control. That night I microwaved leftover Thai and stared blankly at my apartment wall while Netflix autoplayed something I didn't care about. The blinking cursor in my exit map tab pulsed like a heartbeat. I'd written 2 words: phase 1. Then, nothing. I wasn't scared, not yet, just hollow. At 10:47 p.m., I did what I always did when I was stuck. I called my sister. Leona Renee answered on the second ring. Her voice was crisp, half asleep, but instantly alert, the way only older sisters and ER doctors manage. Which made sense, she was both. They said next quarter again, I said. Silence. Then, that's number 10, right? I nodded before remembering she couldn't see me. Yeah. You want to scream or analyze? Little of both. For the next 40 minutes I ranted. I recounted Elliot's smirk, Brody's promotion, the unpaid weekends, the fact that Kirsten called herself a people strategist without irony. Renee listened, murmured, and Jesus, at all the right places. Then when my voice started to break, she said calmly, "So quit," I scoffed. "It's not that simple. I've been there 5 years. My systems run half the company. I've invested too much. Sunk cost fallacy," she said instantly. I groaned. "Don't start with the econ degree. I'm serious. You're staying because it's familiar, not because it's serving you. That's not loyalty, that's inertia. But I can't just quit. The market's volatile, tech is freezing hires. I'm not going to leap without a landing pad." "I didn't say quit your job," Renee said. "I said quit performing for people who have no intention of rewarding you." I blinked. What? Stop over-delivering. Stop chasing their approval. Give them the minimum they deserve and build something of your own on the side. That's not betrayal. That's strategy. Something in me went still. "I don't know how to half care," I whispered. "Then maybe it's time you learn," Renee said gently. "You've spent 5 years proving your worth to people who benefit from not seeing it. That's not a career. That's a trap." I leaned back in my chair. The walls felt quieter, the air lighter. Renee continued, "Let me put it this way. What if you stopped trying to climb their ladder and built your own instead?" We stayed on the phone another hour, mostly in silence with the occasional joke or memory. But something had changed. After I hung up, I reopened the Notion page. Phase 1, document everything. Phase 2, define leverage. Phase 3, exit, quietly. And under that I typed Renee's rule: never beg for a seat at a table you could build yourself. The next morning, I wore the same cardigan, missing button and all, not out of habit, out of intent. Because I wasn't climbing anymore. I was scouting for the perfect place to plant dynamite. By Monday, the smile on Elliot's face had reset. He passed me in the hallway with his usual nod, half courtesy, half superiority, and didn't notice that I didn't return it. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just done pretending. I spent the first 2 hours of that morning doing my usual job, fixing a caching issue for a retail client, reviewing code, Brody had pushed that inexplicably crashed our beta environment. Again, no one suspected a thing. Then I opened my private workspace and drew the first version of what I called the exit map. I'm an engineer. I think in systems, dependencies, failure points. So I approached my departure like I'd approach dismantling a legacy infrastructure without taking the whole product down. I made lists. List 1. Everything I owned. CI/CD pipelines for 3 live platforms. Automated rollback procedures for Futura. Our flagship product. Customized monitoring dashboards used by the entire dev team. Emergency playbooks, unofficial but religiously followed. Relationships with 5 of our top 10 clients, including direct Slack, access to 2 CTOs. List 2. Everything they didn't know I owned. A secret monitoring script that caught deployment errors 2 hours before PagerDuty ever did a patch in the billing module that no one documented, but prevented duplicate charges. The legacy Frankenstein job that ran every midnight to sync old system logs. Only I knew how to restart it when it failed, and it always failed at 3. Every person who depended on me without realizing it. Brody, obviously. 2 PMs who thought they were agile but couldn't debug Jason. Our marketing tech lead who used my scripts to generate uptime reports for investors. The CTO Neil, who once told a board member I was great with details but had never remembered my last name. Each item became a pin on my internal map. And then I did what they never expected. I made myself more valuable, not less. Counterintuitive, right, but necessary. I started fixing bugs no one asked me to, made performance enhancements I didn't log publicly, offered help before being called, quietly rebuilt a failed reporting system for a healthcare client who'd been threatening to churn. I made myself indispensable, but only in ways that passed through me directly. No team ownership, no handoff, no one else looped in, and I documented everything in my private system. Screenshots, before and after data, Slack messages, client testimonials, Git history, a living archive of receipts. At the same time, I started reaching out subtly. Former colleagues who had moved to other firms, recruiters I'd ignored before. A few accidental run-ins at local tech meetups. Just enough to gauge the market. I wasn't applying yet. I was mapping the terrain. Around month 2, I created a spreadsheet labeled Bridge Targets. Not companies. People. Leaders who remembered me. Clients who trusted me, colleagues who had once said, "If you ever leave, take me with you." Meanwhile, Elliot promoted someone else, Maya, a recent hire with great presence and strong cultural fit. I didn't blink. I congratulated her at the kitchen counter. She thanked me, then asked if I could help her understand the container orchestration workflow. I smiled and said yes, then added her to list 3. By month 3, my map was complete. The dependencies were stronger. The cracks were deeper. The leverage was real. And no one, not Elliot, not HR, not Neil, had any idea. To them, I was still the quiet one, still the cardigan in the corner. They had no clue that while they kept me off their leadership ladder, I had already found the blueprint to tear it down. 6 months to the day after Elliot had said. Next quarter, I walked into his office without knocking. He looked up surprised, a protein bar halfway to his mouth. "Leona, I'm resigning," I said, placing the envelope on his desk. He blinked. "What? My 2 weeks. Effective today." The protein bar hit the table. Is this about the promotion?" he asked, already fumbling. "Because we've been reviewing performance in Q3, I shook my head. "No, Elliot, this isn't about Q3. It's about 6 years of being told I was next, and realizing I never was." He stood up flustered. "Wait, let's not be rash. We're about to onboard with Helix Medical, and you're the only one who understands the multi-cloud deployment." I smiled. "That's in the letter too. I'll document what I can, but I'm done here." By the end of the day, the panic had settled in. Neil, our CTO, sent me a Slack message with a calendar invite labeled Quick Chat, 6:00 p.m. The CEO doesn't usually quick chat. When I walked into the glass-walled conference room, Neil was already seated. His tie was loose sleeves rolled up, laptop open, but ignored. Elliot was there too, arms folded. I took the seat opposite them. "We want to offer you the promotion," Neil said without preamble. "Effective immediately. Lead Solutions Architect. 15% raise, seniority track." I didn't speak. I let the silence grow. Elliot jumped in. We recognize your contributions. This is us making it right. I looked at them, finally looking at me like they'd just realized I had a pulse, and asked. Why now? Neither had a good answer, so I answered for them. Because I'm leaving, because your clients are already noticing I'm leaving, because for the first time I'm not begging. Neil leaned forward. Is it about money? We can adjust the offer. It's not about the money, I said and meant it. It's about what it took to be seen. They looked stunned. Like the concept of me walking away with leverage hadn't occurred to them. That I might actually be the one holding the cards. Elliot tried to recover. We'd hate to lose you, Leona. Truly, I stood. You already did. Outside the room, I walked slowly back to my desk. I packed my desk plants, my backup charger, the mug with the scratch on the handle. HR pinged me about exit paperwork. Maya from DevOps stared, then asked softly, Is it true? I nodded. And my phone buzzed. Once, twice, a third time. I looked down. Missed call, Elliot. Missed call, Neil. Missed call, unknown. Then more. 10, 20, 40, 50. My phone was exploding. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I snapped a screenshot, saved it to a new folder in my archive aftermath. Then I turned the phone off, slid it into my bag, and walked out the front doors of NorthLayer Cloud for the last time. The Monday after I left NorthLayer, I slept in. No PagerDuty pings, no Slack messages marked urgent, no one knocking on my office door at 8:15 a.m. with a half apology and a full crisis. I made pancakes. At 11:07 a.m., I turned my phone back on. It took 10 seconds to load the notifications. 52 missed calls, 17 voicemails, 3 text messages from Elliot, 1 from Neil, 2 from clients. A single message from Maya just said, It's chaos. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through the list, snapped a screenshot, and saved it in my archive. Folder name, what they saw. Apparently, the CI/CD pipeline broke within 36 hours of my departure. The deployment for Helix Medical failed in staging, then again in production. Nobody could figure out why. I could have told them. It was the undocumented patch I'd written to stabilize the rollback scripts, the one no one ever asked about. By Wednesday, our biggest client, Novaleap, had emailed the account manager, asking point blank, Is Leona still with your team? They were halfway through a critical infrastructure migration. I was the only one who had their architecture notes. Neil tried to find them in our shared drives, except I hadn't stored them there. The knowledge wasn't lost. It was never theirs to begin with. The day after that, Elliot scheduled a war room. Maya messaged again. They're panicking. Neil's blaming you. Clients are furious. Elliot tried to get HR to call you formally, but legal said it's too late. By Friday, one of the clients I'd quietly coffee chatted with 2 months prior had emailed me directly. Subject line, Are you available for consultation? No guilt, no hesitation. I responded professionally, booked the meeting, and turned my phone off again. Because I didn't need to hear the voicemails. I already knew what they said. 3 weeks after I walked out of NorthLayer, I walked into the downtown office of StratusGrid, a fast-rising cloud consultancy I'd admired for years. I wasn't there as a candidate. I was there as their newest principal solutions architect. They didn't ask me to prove myself 10 times. They saw my value once. My onboarding lasted 3 days, not because I needed time, but because they wanted to listen. Understand how I worked, what I wanted, what I would never tolerate again, and they made room for it. Within the first month, I led a turnaround project for a failing SaaS platform, rebuilt their CI/CD in 4 weeks, automated deployments across regions. The CTO shook my hand and said, I can't believe we ever tried to do this without you. I smiled, thanked him, and never once looked back toward NorthLayer, except when I got the call. It was Vernon, NorthLayer's CEO. I let it go to voicemail, then another. On the 4th try, I picked up. Leona, he said, voice tight. We need to talk. Things are unstable. I figured, I said. We'd like you to return. Name your terms. Director level, full autonomy, we'll match your current comp or double it. I paused, not out of temptation, but out of recognition. That was the fantasy. The moment I used to daydream about them begging, me accepting, everything balanced again. But now that it was real, it felt empty. I appreciate the offer, I said gently, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. There was silence. Then Vernon exhaled. They still talk about you, you know. Elliot calls you the one that got away. I smiled. That's funny. I used to call myself the one they never saw. We ended the call politely. I muted the number after. That afternoon, I walked into my new office, the plaque on the glass reading Leona Price Principal. Architect, simple, unpretentious mine. I brewed a fresh cup of coffee. No emails marked urgent. No damage control. Just silence. And clarity, the kind I once begged others to give me. Now I gave it to myself.